Good day, Africa, and welcome to AAU Talks. Today on AAU Talks, we'll be looking at the role of development engineering in Africa's development and how Academic City University College is contributing to raising the next generation of leaders for Africa and beyond. On today's talk, I'll be talking to interesting guests from Academic City University College. After the break, I will introduce the guests for today's show. Stay with us.
عشان نقدر نشوف انه كيف ونقدر نستفيد من التجارب بتاعت الناس الثانيين في انه نشوف انه كيف دايرين نعلم الناس architecture يعني to keep looking around لاي حاجه ممكن تكون فيها ideas يعني نقدر انه نكون creative و think out of the box من الافكار already موجوده عندنا. ده ما من ناحيه بس artistic ولا من ناحيه شكليه لكن من ناحيه بتاعت السبستانس بتاعت الاركتكتشر نفسها وانه كيف احنا ممكن contribute للاركتكتشر at large يعني اذا كان building design or otherwise.
بالنسبه لدور المعماري في الحياه من غير معماري انا ما بعتقد انه كان في حتكون حياه، ما كان حتكون في ايكونز جميله في كل البلدان سواء كانت دبي سواء كانت نيويورك الى غير ذلك من البلدان اللي فيها ايكونز معماريه كبيره.
كنا مصبحين في تسليم كان الموضوع صعب شديد ومرهق يعني تصبيح في تصبيح في تصبيح في النهاية بيكون في نتيجة مثمرة يعني تصبيح لكن هي بتجيب نتائج حلوة تنبسط احنا ماشيين استمتاع أي في أغلب الأوقات في أغلب الأوقات يوم تكمل المشكلة يعني هي حاجة مهما اشتغلت فيها ما حتبسط يعني يعني ممكن تقول إنه خلاص أشتغل وأخلص وخلاص يعني أخلصها وأخذتها وأعمل بعد ذاك حاجة دي إنه هي ما حتخلص.
معمار لما انت سألني معمار بالنسبة لي شنو؟ زي ما قلت قبل كده انه دي اكبر حاجة حققتني في حياتي الكبيرة والمهمة حققتني في حياتي، لانه في معمار لقيت طريقة انه انا اعبر عن الرواية، لقيت طريقة انه انا اوصل مفاهيمي والحياة اللي ترسخت جواي بمجهود سواء كان بتاع الشغل سواء كان بتاع موديل ميكينج سواء كان بأي طريقة انه انا اقدر اظهر الحاجة دي. انه بالنسبة لي انا بعتقد انه المعمار اسلوب حياة.
Welcome back. This is AAU Talks on AAU TV. Remember, you can follow the conversation on YouTube, Association of African Universities. On Facebook, also search for Association of African Universities. On Twitter, you can also search for AAU TV1, and then you will be able to follow our conversation live. On today's show, AAU Talks, we have Dr. Lucy Ejapon.
Hello.
Welcome, Dr. Lucy Ejapon.
Thank you.
Dr. Lucy Ejapon is the Dean for Engineering Faculty at Academic City University College. And with Dr. Lucy is Dr. Linda Day.
Hello.
Also the Dean for Faculty of Business and Social Sciences, also at Academic City University College. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so on today's AAU Talks, we are looking at the role of development engineering in Africa's development. And so we all know the role of engineering in Africa's development, and it's also emphasized in SDG.
Yes.
And so we talk about SDG Goal 6, that talks about water management, and we talk about access to energy, SDG Goal 7, engineering has a lot to do when it comes to that. And also the creation of strong and lasting infrastructure, SDG Goal 9, where Africa we lack when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
And also the creation of clean cities, Goal 11. So a number of the SDG goals and some of the problems we have on the continent are directly or indirectly linked to engineering and other disciplines.
Yeah.
So today we are looking at what engineers or engineering can do to promote Africa's development. But then I read on the conversation that Africa needs about 10 folds of current engineers to be able to catch up with our needs.
Yes.
So as higher education experts, what do you think Africa can do to contribute to producing the next generation of leaders, not only in engineering, but in other fields for Africa's problems? I'll start with you, Dr. Lucy.
Thank you. So, I mean, Africa as a continent, we know that we are very bright. There's no word about that. And both Linda and myself have a lot of industrial experience. We both lived in the UK prior to coming here. And everywhere you go in the West, you see African students, African people are excelling. So it begs the question, what's happening to us in Africa and what do we need to do to help us to get to the next level? And this is where the role of higher education comes into play, because in most African countries, we know how to teach, we know how to acquire knowledge. But the problem comes is when we have to apply that knowledge. How do you translate the theory to actual application? And that's where engineering comes in, because engineering is all about how do you come up with solutions and help and address some of these SDGs that you're talking about. In Africa in particular, I mean, look at us. We are very privileged, especially in Ghana, with the sun, yet we have limited issues with energy. We still have water shortages. Africa is full of resources, yet again, we lack some of these few essential things that is required. So yes, we do think that higher education can play a key role. We need to find out how do we translate everything that our students are acquiring in these higher institutions and turn them to actual solutions that can benefit our society. And that's where development engineering comes in. So if we're talking about how do we shape the next generation of engineers, and how we think it should be done, and that's what we employ at Academic City, is we need to give them the practical hands-on experience. How do you make sure that the graduates that are coming out of higher education, when they go into industry, they can hit the ground running? How will they be able to apply their knowledge? If you're training someone to be a mechanical engineer, what expertise are they coming out with? So when they go into industry, they can actually apply what they've learned. And I think that is what we as Africa need to step up. We as higher education need to change and radically, change the way we teach. We can't do what we've been doing for the past 20, 30 years, whereby we're just teaching them the theory just teaching them the theory and hoping that somehow when they go there, they'll be able to apply it. They need to live it. They need to experience it. Again, higher education, what we can do differently is how do we incorporate some of these SDGs that we already know, some of these challenges that we already know into our education system. So even at higher education level, as they are studying, how are we generating solutions that can actually be applied? Those are some of the radical changes I think we need to do, some of which we have started doing at Academic City College.
Thank you very much, Dr. Japon. Dr. Day, you take it from the social science perspective.
Exactly. Just following on from what Lucy said, basically we are in a situation where we need to make sure that our new generation of graduates are employable. So employability is key. Following on from employability is, well, we need to create jobs as well. So apart from the fact that our graduates have to have the skill set to be able to go into a workplace and do the job, they should also have the toolkit to be able to go into an industry and set up a business. So just as Lucy said, are they able to look at a situation, a very complex situation, which Africa is, and try and identify problems that obviously need solutions and turn that into businesses. So from the business school perspective, that is what we're trying to do with our students and our graduates. How do we develop business professionals who have an entrepreneurial mindset, who can then go into the industry and be thrown into the deep end and be able to swim. At the moment, digital technology is enhancing the pace of business and operations in business, which means that we cannot not recognize the integration of digital technology into the way that business operates. And so we need our students, or we need professionals or future professionals to be in a position where they can understand how technology can be used to enhance operations in business. So for example, if you take the way mobile apps have now exploded, and the way certain sectors like the health sector having to apply the use of apps in order to ensure that their operations take place. We need to recognize how we tap into this, if you like, explosion of technology, and how we integrate that into the way businesses operate. The other thing is also from a communications part, because in business we have both the business and then the communications, is how technology now has affected the way communications operates. We're in here and we're surrounded by technology, right? But also the use of technology to do some of the work that previously 10, 15 years ago was quite difficult. So in journalism, access to geographical locations, access to histories and cultures of different people. Technology allows us to do that much more easily now than we ever did before. So it is about recognizing that one, industry is changing at a very fast pace, and two, that we need to adapt that technology. With Africa having access to digital technology, that is our opportunity. I can't remember the statistics, but in Ghana, there are over at least half of the population who have more than two mobile phones, on which at least one of them is a smartphone. And so we have access to online technology. And so how do we harness that into business opportunities, and how do our future generation of young people start thinking about integrating this into what we do as individuals and as professionals?
Okay. Dr. Day, let me come specific to Academic City University College. We have a lot of social science, obviously, is one of the biggest faculties we have in our universities, and yet a lot more are springing up. And when you talk about social science, it is supposed to solve some of the vital problems in our society.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of social science faculties, and yet more are springing up.
Yes.
What is Academic City doing specifically to produce the next generation of leaders that are so different and will be able to tackle the problems of Africa head on?
Right. So Lucy mentioned earlier that we're both from the UK. So I have been in the UK education system for a while, and I saw the change of curriculum from what used to be traditional. You go into a theatre, lecture, you go into a seminar, to strong application of concepts. And that has taken place in the UK, certainly in the higher education in the UK, for the last 10 years. The transition has been tough, but it has also meant that the universities that are more agile have been able to catch up with what the industry wants. What is unique about the way that Academic City has placed themselves is that right at the beginning, we have positioned ourselves in a way that captures what the Western higher education institutions are already doing, which is bridging the gap between what higher education does, what sort of graduates we are nurturing, and how that impacts or influences the industry in the future. So we have looked at our curriculum, we have revamped our curriculum, we have recognized the fact that big data, for example, is huge, and the analytics of that data is important for any business operations and decision-making processes. We have also recognized the fact that internationalization, especially for entrepreneurs, has become a huge opportunity. So gone are the days when you're an entrepreneur, you'd be in your room and you're trying to figure out, where is my location, where can I put my shop or my office or what have you. Now you can operate in your room. Why? Because of technology.
Okay.
And you can go across borders. What the business school in Academic City does is provides you with a toolkit to be able to do that.
Okay.
And so we are looking at those things. The other thing is capitalizing, if you like, on the strength of our engineering faculty. Okay. So our engineering faculty is doing fantastic things around artificial intelligence, robotics, which I'll leave for Lucy to talk about shortly. But then that means that we can tap on some of those subject areas which are important for business operations. So for example, programming and artificial intelligence. How does that impact on photography? You know, artificial intelligence and robotics is important in photography, especially in the area of commercial photography. So in our journalism and mass communications, we're looking at how we adapt those technologies in the way that we do our photography for journalism. So those are examples of some of the things that we're trying to do differently.
Okay. Dr. Japon, as a follow-up, when you came back from the UK, I'm
Yes.
sure one obvious thing, or probably some of the obvious things you saw was the huge gap in terms of infrastructure.
Yes.
Comparing the UK to Ghana or maybe Africa. There's a huge gap. So the moment you step down, you know that there's some differences, some work to be done. And mostly, if you look at some of our infrastructure, when you go to construction sites, you see that most of the contractors are foreigners. Whilst we're supposed to have most of these contractors being locals from Africa. So at Academic City, what are you doing? Because obviously you've seen this, and then what is Academic City doing to address this gap that we have?
So Academic City, I know, is how we are positioning ourselves with industry to work together. Yeah. You see, my background prior to coming to academia in the UK, I used to work for the Manufacturing Technology Centre, which tend to collaborate and work with universities and industry to see how can we generate solutions for the betterment of Great Britain. And that is the same kind of mentality we have at Academic City, because you see, there's a lot of technology out there, some of which we can adapt and we can take directly and be able to use, but there are some technologies that are not necessarily relevant for our society. Okay. That's why sometimes we bring a lot of technology here, and you leave it with the local community. 5 months later, a year later, you go and it's not working, it's not functioning, because it's not been adapted for the community. So what we're doing at Academic City is we're making our students global ready. In other words, if they were to work anywhere in the world, they'll survive. However, more importantly, we're teaching them that look at the problems within your local community. How do you change, or how do you use the knowledge you're acquiring to make an actual impact to somebody who's just at your doorstep, somebody who's a mile away from you, someone who's in the same continent, someone who's in the same region? And how we are doing this is through it's our project-based teaching. And I think we'll touch on that when we come to the conference avenue. We teach a lot of our engineering project programs that we do. Some of the courses is all about project-based. So we come up with a problem and say, okay, we're teaching mechanical engineering, or let's call it fluid mechanics. What is the immediate problem that we have there? And how can we give the students a project so that as they are learning the fundamentals, they're developing a solution? Okay. That is a project-based teaching. We also give them the hands-on experience, whereby they are going to the labs. I mean, if I look back at my academic career, back when I was in the UK, you would have like 3 or 4 labs a year. At Academic City, they have a lab every week. They have 2 lectures, 2-hour lectures, and that same week, the lecturer has to demonstrate and show them physically what he's taught them. So it gives them the opportunity to experience what it's like in real industry, get the opportunity to work with the tools they'll be working with. So it's not just theory and they're not just looking on paper. They can actually touch it. They can actually feel it, and they can actually use it. But I think what we're doing that is very, very unique at Academic City, there's 2 things. One is our innovative curriculum. We are looking at who are the next generation of leaders going to look like. Even in engineering, to solve the kind of problems that we have in Africa, what technologies do we need? And how do we make sure these students have the knowledge so they can apply it? So Linda touched on the AI and robotics. And I mean, if you look at our high schools at the moment, we have our students taking up in robotics competitions. They're going into the world and they're winning, yet we don't have any university that does robotics engineering as an undergraduate degree. So these people with these appetites and with this knowledge, where do they go? In Ghana. That is why Academic City, we said, no, things like that has to change. So we will be offering a robotics engineering as an undergraduate degree in the near future. The same with artificial intelligence. There's so many things that artificial intelligence is enabling us to do. And there's so many applications in the African context, in agriculture, for our roads, even delivery. I mean, recently we acquired some drones to deliver blood. That's a whole different conversation that we don't want to go into. But there's a lot of application that is very, very relevant. How are we preparing our next graduates so that they can tackle this, so that they don't just have to get these machines, but they can actually build these machines. They actually use these machines. At the moment, some of our students, our second-year students, are taking part in this World Challenge, whereby they've gone to acquire this kit car so they can turn it into an autonomous vehicle. They are trying to apply everything they are learning, and they're trying to acquire data that an autonomous vehicle will be able to capture so that it will be useful in the Ghanaian setting. You know how our roads are. Sure. When you're trying to give somebody direction, you take your left, take your right, then you do logo. So if you had a driverless car and it was supposed to go in our roads, what information is it going to work on? Exactly. So those are the unique things that Academic City we're doing differently, because we're trying to teach our students that even whilst you're in university, how do you capture these relevant data and how do you use these technology to inform some of the decisions you make? We are teaching them that they don't only see the problems that we see, that you and I see, but come up with solutions for them and test them out. One of the things we're doing is coming up with our industry advisory board, whereby we have industry that we will be conferring with and basically talking about, okay, this is what we are shaping up. This is the kind of graduates we're creating. What are you looking at? What are the technologies or the skills you need them to have? And we are generating those. One thing that, if I can just quickly jump on, when she was saying that they learn a lot from us engineers, we learn a lot from the business as well. Yeah, and that is why at Academic City, what we do differently is we work very, very closely together. And I think Linda will talk on some of our pillars. But the unique thing is that in the real world, you will not go into any industry where you find just an engineer working. Sure. Even an engineering company has a business component, has a marketing component. So it's all multidisciplinary. And that's what we do at Academic City. We say, how does it look like in the real world? How does it really work? And why don't we teach that way? So everybody is aware of what everybody is doing. When a marketing department makes a decision, what impact does it have on me, the engineer, who is designing the product that marketing is going to be publishing? Okay. And that's one of the things that we are doing differently.
Obviously, there is hope for Africa from what Academic City is doing.
Oh, there's a lot of hope.
We will go for a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk more specifically what Academic City is doing. So stay with us.
I had the passion to study the Arabic language since I was a kid. Reading about early Arab pioneers always made me feel super enthusiastic about this authentic culture. I got fascinated by the Arabic calligraphy. There was something always pushing me to study this language.
أول حاجة بنتعلمها في كلية إعلام إن صورة واحدة ممكن تعبر عن 1000 كلمة. أهم حاجة وإحنا بنختار الصورة لازم نتأكد إنها تستحق فعلا إن كل الناس تشوفها. الكلية بالنسبة لنا مش مجرد مكان، ده عيلة وأصحاب وأحلى ذكريات.
Mon objectif, ce n'est pas d'apprendre une langue étrangère. Ce qui m'intéresse, c'est plutôt la communication avec les autres. Si nous parlons plusieurs langues, nous allons certainement mieux comprendre le monde qui nous entoure. Étudier une langue étrangère ne m'a pas seulement permis de comprendre les autres, mais aussi de me faire des amis et de trouver de nouvelles familles partout dans le monde.
Pengajian perubatan merupakan salah satu impian yang mampu dicapai di sini. Kami di sini bukan sahaja belajar tentang perubatan, Namun kami juga belajar bagaimana cara untuk meraih keyakinan pesakit dalam menerima rawatan daripada kami. Harapan kami, semoga kami menjadi duta universiti ini sekembalinya ke Malaysia nanti. Tempat ini bukan hanya sekadar fakulti, tetapi ia merupakan rumah kedua bagi kami.
What does it mean to study here? One of the oldest universities all over the world. With a glorious past and promising present. 79 undergraduate colleges in different fields. Science, pharmacy, astronomy, radiology, agriculture, architecture, engineering, art, sports, language, and Islamic studies. 46 research centers, 40,000 scholarships for foreigners, graduates from more than 150 countries all over the world. Welcome to Al-Azhar University.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is AAU Talks on AAU TV. Today we are looking at role of development engineering in Africa's development and the incredible things Academic City University College here in Ghana is doing to advance, contributing to the next generation of leaders for Africa. And we started with some of the things that we can do in our higher education to change some of the things, the problems, or solve some of the problems we have on the continent. And specifically, we came to the unique things that Academic City is doing. On following up on the unique things that Academic City University College is doing, I understand there is a conference coming up.
There is.
Yes, that is also an innovative way of dealing with some of the problems we have here on the continent. So I'll start from you, Dr. Day, to talk about the conference and the background to the conference, what informed the conference.
Right, so the conference is called Development Engineering, and I guess the question is, what is development engineering? It is a fairly old concept, but an emerging one in terms of the fact that you mentioned the UN Millennium Development Goals,
SDGs,
which really captures on some issues that have to be solved. And what development engineering has done is really captured on how this can actually happen. And so it is a multidisciplinary field, for starters, which integrates technology with social sciences.
Dr. Japan can pick it up from there, and then specifically maybe talk about a bit about the conference and what we should expect or people should expect coming for this particular conference.
So just jumping off what Dr. Day said is, how do we co-create and co-define the problems and co-create a solution? So even though it's called development engineering, it has the word engineering in it. It's more like, how do we engineer a solution that will help the continent that we are living in? So the conference has a lot of themes that includes but not limited to engineering projects for development. So what kind of projects should we be doing for the betterment of our nation? So if anyone has any ideas or abstract or papers in this field, anything got to do with infrastructure that we've talked about, affordable housing is something that is new on the market, energy, agriculture and health. What are the projects for development that needs to be done to be able to help the continent? We are also including within the conference design thinking, engineering and development. So this looks at social, cultural differences, cross-cultural communications, and more importantly for Africa, ethical standards. When we're talking about ethics, What do we mean? And how do we infuse that within how we generate our projects? We're also looking at industrialization. How do we create value in our rural areas? Because those are the places that have the most resources. So how do we industrialize? What kind of technologies do we take into these environments? What appropriate technology are we introducing? And then we are looking at educating engineers for the global workforce, which is what we started off with this discussion. So I touched on a little bit on project-based teaching. There's hands-on learning application, research informed by project-based teaching. We're looking at experimental and active learning. So it's not just somebody just speaking to you. How do you change the way you teach so that the global workforce, when they go into industry, they know what to do? Another thing that we'll be looking at is educating transdisciplinary thinkers, which we touched on a little bit, what we call the unified learning, whereby you bring different skills, different expertise to work on the same project so that you can look at it from the different angles and see the impact they have. How are people doing that? How should that be done? And how can that inform our continent? So these are a few of the areas that we'll be touching on the conference, but obviously it's not limited.
Sure.
What can we do to help develop our continent?
So when and where?
So it will be happening at Academic City College in Hacho. It will be happening on the 27th of February to the 29th of February.
Okay.
$100 if you want to attend, which I think is fair. But if you're a student, guess what?
Free.
It's free.
Wow.
If you're a student, you can attend, you can present. This is the first international conference on development engineering, and we will be partnering up with WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute in the USA, and they'll be coming and we'll be doing this conference. So we'd like to invite you all. Please do attend because it will be a phenomenal event.
Okay, so if I'm attending, whom should I expect to probably see over there?
We have a whole host of institutions that are meant to be there. So educational institutions, higher education institutions. We definitely want the government's buy-in because it's important. Non-profit organizations, so NGOs, profit organizations, businesses. And really, it is the opportunity to bring, it's a platform, if you like, to bring both government and non-governmental, private, public sector institutions together in one place to have a conversation about how development engineering can be used to enhance our very complex the very complex challenges that we currently have on our continent.
So how do we register?
Yes, so if you want to register, you can email, we're calling for papers, and I think is the deadline?
The deadline is
today?
31st.
31st of January. However, we're willing to extend that.
Exactly.
So the conference actually happens in February. So if you have any abstracts, you have any papers, feel free to send that. You can either send the email and the abstract to icde2020@act.edu.gh. That is ICDE, so that's International Conference Development Engineering 2020 at act.edu.gh. Or you can either call us on +233 268 18456. I'll repeat that. I think it's +233 268 189, and then it's 456. Please visit us on our website, which is www.wpi.edu/c/ICDE. Hopefully we can send the links with you so that you can show it on your social media platforms. You can just either go on there and submit an abstract, or you can email it directly to the emails that we've submitted.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Japon and Dr. Day, for joining us here on AAU Talks. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
And then the insight you've given to us and what Academic City is doing to solve the problems of Africa. Of course, as I'm living here, I'm very optimistic that in the next 4 years, where probably your graduates will be out, you're going to have the next generation of leaders who are ready to tackle the problems of Africa head on. Once again, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
So let me re-echo their contact details. If you want to join the conference, you can call on +233 268 189 456, or you can go to their website www.wpi.edu/c/ICDE, and you have more information on the conference that is coming up at Academic City University College. And actually, I will be there to
Yes.
see
Fantastic.
how we will be shaping the
Please.
next generation of leaders. Once again, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is AAU TV, and this is AAU Talks. I was the host for today, Schenineda Ankomah. Thanks for being with us.